Hi you guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a new video. It is a very gloomy day out. I literally have like the lights on. It's so dark in here. It's kind of cozy honestly. And I just hope that the quality of this is okay because sometimes my camera kind of struggles when it's gloomy and dark out. But I just made myself a tea. I had to spring out the spring mugs. Because honestly, I'm ready for it. And my current tea obsession is 1 lemon ginger and 1 peppermint. We had that on our cruise and it was like the perfect tea. And if you can't tell, hopefully you can. Sometimes the congestion sounds worse in your head than it actually does. But I have been very sick for the last like 4 or 5 days. I've had like a mix between a cold and a flu where like I had the fever, the chills, the body aches, and then like just like all the congestion and stuff. And it's not been a fun time. And I've missed you guys. You guys like haven't noticed, but I had all these plans to film like a really fun home vlog this weekend and like capture the first race of the season. And we just obviously, like, you know, you can't predict when you're going to get sick. And so it was a weekend of relaxing. And I'm obviously in the library right now, but I'm looking at the couch and I have been rotting on that couch since Thursday and I am just like ready. I'm ready to not rot anymore. Today's the first day I feel like a human again. Like I have some energy. I'd say I'm like 70% better. And I wasn't like really in the mood to like vlog in the sense of like, I didn't really want to like get out of the house quite yet and do things. So I was like, you know what? Let's just sit down, have a cup of tea on my lunch break from work and just like catch up, film a little Q&A. I haven't done one of these on here in 6 months. Which is like a really long time. And I think I didn't really notice it because I try and do them on Instagram like every week or two. I'd like to do little Q&As there like every few weeks or so and just kind of like catch up with you guys. And I figured it was time for one over here. So you guys really came through with the questions I asked you on my YouTube community tab. And then I also just took some questions from like Instagram Q&As from the last few weeks and put them all together. And there are a lot of questions, so we should probably jump into it. I've got the Kleenex here, I've got the Vicks here, and if there's a lot of cuts in this video, I do apologize. But I'm gonna probably have to stop and like blow my nose once or twice. It's like the worst when like you finally feel like you're recovering from the sickness, but like you're still, you know, dealing with the aftermath. So let's start with work. I just like eeny, meeny, miny, moe it. Do you ever plan to go back to work full time? And if you guys are new here, I work a 4-day-a-week corporate job. I started at 3 days a week. Now I work 4 days a week. And that's actually something that my manager and I have been discussing because my workload keeps increasing, but I'm not working any more days. Well, I guess I went from 3 to 4 days. I am I in focus? That's a good question. I'm an education coordinator for a department in the hospital. I've been with my hospital for almost 7 years now, yeah, Matt and I have been dating. We're going on 6 years and am I going on 8 years maybe? I might be going on 8 years, honestly. 7 or 8 years in the hospital and I've tried so many different roles out. But I work for a department and I do a little bit of everything. So I oversee recruitment for fellows, which is the stage after residency before you become like a full-fledged doctor. We do a lot of international recruitment. So I do a lot of HR, interviewing, finance, and then I also plan educational events, like just educational opportunities in the hospital if you work in healthcare, like lunch and learns, things like that with pharmaceutical companies. And then a big portfolio of my job is conference planning. And so I plan a few national level conferences throughout Canada, and then also kind of branching out into international now, which is kind of fun. And I also get to attend conferences as well to just kind of like spread the word about our program and things like that. So that's just like a little bit about my job. Most of the other PAs, the program administrators, education coordinators, it depends like where you work, are full-time, but I work 4 days a week. I was actually talking to my manager about this because the department, or I shouldn't say the department, the hospital's going through some changes. They're trying to kind of make sure that every department in the hospital has an education coordinator, and they're obviously trying to make sure that they're like standardized, of course. And so we're doing a lot of HR stuff right now, going through a lot of changes, and my goal is actually to hopefully go back full-time in 2026, but I want to do compressed work weeks. So I work part-time right now. I make around $42 an hour Canadian with my in lieu of. I get 9% in lieu of for vacation, 8% sick time, or like reversed. And so I do make good money in my corporate job, but to me, it's just like not worth it anymore not having paid vacation or paid time off. Like I just feel guilty taking sick days when they're unpaid. I do contribute to my pension, but I just don't have sick time or vacation time. And I feel like I'm just like less likely to like use it when you don't have it. So I've been talking with my manager about it and she like knows about social media and stuff like that. I've been like very open about that. The goal is hopefully in 2026, once this like whole HR thing is kind of like, you know, finalized, is I'd like to go back full-time permanent, and then work compressed work week. So I'd work 10-hour days, 4 days a week, because you can't go like, you can't have benefits working part-time, working 4 days a week. So the plan is, yes, I don't ever really see myself leaving the corporate world. I get that question too, and like I got it again, like, are you gonna, you know, leave your corporate job for social media? And I don't see it in my future. I have nothing against people who do, and I think it's amazing, especially for a season of your life. Like people like Abby, I love Abby Aslin on YouTube, and she, you know, worked, and then she's a CPA, I believe, and then she took some time off. And like the nice thing is you have, you know, social media like kind of fall back on for a period of time. And I could see myself maybe for a few months, like if, you know, something ever happened to my job, like at least I would have that to kind of rely on, and I could take my time finding a job that really suits me. But like long term, I don't see myself, like, never say never. You never know. And like 6 months from now, something could happen, and then I would decide to go for it and try it, because it's not easy to juggle it all. And I'm like so overwhelmed, honestly, most of the time. But I really love my corporate job. I love the stability of it. I love the stable paychecks of it. And especially in times like this, like 2025 so far, there just like hasn't been much opportunity. A lot of social media falls onto like what's going on in the world and brand deals and how the economy is doing. And it's not great right now. And it's times like this where I'm like grateful I'm not relying on that fully, because I'd be really stressed out. And I also feel like it allows me to, and I'm not saying people that do it full-time aren't, but I feel like I'm a lot pickier with brand deals. Like I barely work with brands anymore on YouTube because I'm just so picky with who I work with. And I feel like I feel like if I were doing this full time, I would maybe feel more pressure to say yes to more brands, because I would like need the money. And so right now I don't see myself leaving my corporate job. Like never say never, but it's not something I envision for myself. I genuinely love my corporate job. I love having an identity outside of social media, because it's so easy to let that consume you. And it allows me to keep, like, in a sense, like as much as like, yes, YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, they're my job, right? Like I have 2 jobs right now. It's also still a hobby for me, and I'm allowed to maintain that side of it being a hobby, because I am relying on it for income, but it's not like my sole source of income, if that makes sense. So yeah, I get that one all the time. How did you approach your corporate job going from full-time to part-time? I get this one a lot as well, and I didn't. My role was actually posted as part-time. So I was in a full-time data role before this. I was working like data administration, and I had been talking to Matt about how I wanted to go down part-time to focus more on social media. This job like ended up coming up, and I ended up being like in the interview, I'm pretty sure I was just like, oh, like I, you know, have another job, I do social media, I travel and all this stuff, and I'm really only looking to work 3 to 4 days a week. And that's what they were looking for, and it ended up like completely working out. So I definitely think it's possible though, to like, you know, talk to your manager about it, about like scaling down work, or maybe doing compressed work weeks or something like that. I'm sure ChatGPT would be able to help with that. I'm like a big fan of ChatGPT, honestly. And I do follow a few people who work for the government here in Ottawa that have done that. But I think just being like open and transparent about it would be really helpful. And then of course, like I said, ChatGPT really, really helps me out all the time. So you could ask it like, hey, how would you approach going from full-time to part-time? Do you have any professional goals this year? I do. I want to attend an international conference. That's the only one I set, because like I mentioned, we're just like going through some transitions and some changes at work that are like kind of in the works. So I just like didn't really want to set any goals, because like I just didn't really know what was going to happen. But other than that, I just didn't really want to set any other personal goals, or professional goals, I should say, because I just wasn't too sure what was going to come of this year. But luckily we've gotten some hopefully good news about it, and maybe once I know for sure that like my job will still be there, maybe I will set some. But for the time being, I'm just vibing. Truthfully, I'm literally just vibing. Anything you're excited with spring around the corner? Honestly, just the sun and just getting out of the house more. I used to really beat myself up for like in the winter I'd want to hibernate, and the vlogs would just be like at home, we're relaxing, we're chilling, and I'd feel like really bad about that. But I've come to realize that with a lifestyle channel, you're going to go through different like lifestyle shifts, and it's so normal in the winter to like want to hibernate and be at home. There's nothing wrong with sharing that part of your life. It's not boring. That's just the reality of it, right? But come spring and summer, I love to get out of the house more and do more things with you guys and just be outside, be in the backyard. Sometimes it feels like very cooped up to be at home and vlogging in the winter. And so I'm just looking forward to like going on day trips together and just getting out of the house and just like doing fun things and exploring new areas and going to coffee shops and farmers markets and In the winter, it can be so hard because it gets so cold here that like I can't vlog outside, or like my camera will like get cold sometimes, even just like being in the car. So it's really hard to like take you guys out and about over the winter, which is really hard because like I love doing things like that. And also, like, I don't know if anyone can relate, but it's just like so overstimulating sometimes to be wearing like a big winter jacket and then you're trying to get your purse on that doesn't really fit over your jacket, and the hat and the mitts, and you're carrying a phone and a camera, and it's a lot. So I feel like this spark of like creativity, or like a spark of creativity come spring, of just like so many videos that I want to film. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Honestly, just like barbecuing. We just got a notification on Facebook that our chip truck opens on Thursday. So like it just feels like spring, and it's more summer, but like, you know, we have an ice cream truck in town, and like, you know, on a Wednesday night, Matt will be like, you want to go get ice cream? And like, we just obviously don't do things like that in the winter because there's no ice cream truck open in the winter, but just like spontaneous fun things, going to the beach. And I'm just really looking forward to like being outside more, and I can already feel myself like defrosting a little bit. And it's nice to hibernate and all that in the winter and like really lean into like nature cycles, but I'm so ready for all the fun videos and adventures and just like things we're going to do together. And also just like home projects too. I feel like we're about to start a bunch of really fun home projects. So I'm just excited overall, honestly. Let's do finance. What platform do you use to invest? I use Wealthsimple. I use it for everything. I've been using Wealthsimple for like 7 or 8 years. I use it for, like I said, investing, savings, so my emergency fund, and then also sinking funds. And then I've been using their platform to invest, and also for taxes. They have a really great tax software that's free to use. You can just like make a donation if you want to. I've been using that for like 7, 8 years, honestly. Like ever since I was filing my own T4s, I've been doing my own taxes for years. Like a personal, I don't do my own business taxes. Oh my gosh, no. But I love it. I love the interface. The app is super easy to use. It's really easy to transfer money in and out. They don't hold it for long periods of time. I know with like some banks, you know, it's like takes a week to get money out of your emergency fund and things like that. So I really like it because it's really easy to get the money in and out, and really easy to set up auto transfers. I also really like that it has buckets for savings funds. Well, it is savings, but for sinking funds too. You can customize the names and emojis and things like that, and just like overall a really easy interface to use. You can also like add accounts from your app, which I think is something that like not a lot of people take into consideration. Like you don't want to have to visit a branch every time you open a savings account. So I really like that, and overall like I've had an amazing experience with them. Not sponsored. I wish though. Next big financial goal. I think our next big goal is the laundry room. We were going to do it this spring, but just with everything going on with the honeymoon, and then like it's tax season, property taxes, all that, it just like felt like a lot. So we're going to do it this fall, and just making sure that we have enough saved ahead of time. We had a few contractors come out to get quotes, and now that we know what contractor we're going to go with, we kind of know how much we need to save for the laundry room. So we're thinking it's going to cost us about $10,000 because we have to do some like serious work in there, and it's one of those rooms that you want to like do once and do right. And that gives us time too, if like we see a washer dryer go on sale, we can like pick that up, pick up cabinets, things like that. But that is our next like big financial goal that we're saving for in the fall. Do you make more from your job or social media? Okay, this is like kind of a 2-part question, because technically speaking, the business makes more than my corporate job does, but I pay myself business dividends and I choose what I pay myself. I just did my taxes for this year, and I made like $70,000 before tax in my corporate job, and then I paid myself $36,000 before tax, because you have to take off your own taxes if you're self-employed. Technically, what I choose to pay myself in the business is less than I make in my corporate job, but the business as a whole, I haven't done my business tax, or my accountant hasn't, we haven't finished the taxes yet, but I'd say probably around $100,000 is what the business made in 2024. So the business makes more than my corporate job, but of course the business is like a separate entity than what I pay myself. And I mean, the nice thing is that if I were to leave my corporate job, which I just mentioned I'm not going to do, but if I like had to for some reason, I could pay myself more from the business, but I just choose to pay myself like a limited amount now, just because I have that corporate income and I have that reliable income. So short answer is yes and no. It depends how you look at it, but the business makes more than my job does, but what I pay myself is not, because I have the job to rely on. Do your family and friends treat you differently now that you're married, like more grown up? This is a good question. You guys asked some like really good thought-provoking questions. Yes and no. I feel like because of the order we did things, like buying a house before we got married, a lot of those like shifts came after we bought the house, because we bought a house when we were dating. We weren't even engaged yet. And so I think once we bought a house, everyone kind of viewed us as like, oh, you guys are adults now. Whereas sometimes I feel like if you have that more traditional setup of like getting married, buying the house, having kids, like that order, sometimes once you get married, then that's when that big shift happens and people are like, oh, you're real adults now, like you're responsible. So I think we had already kind of gone through that shift before when we bought the house, except for the whole like kid thing, which like obviously I think once you get married, you know, that shift comes where people not only ask you about kids, but I think people assume that you're pregnant, which is like the one thing that bothers me. I think that people become a lot more like vocal and things that maybe they should like not say out loud. So, you know, we've had experiences where like I would like go get more food and like people would assume I'm pregnant, or I obviously really struggle with IBS, and you know, if I'm like really bloated, people assume I'm pregnant. And those are things like before we were married, people would never have like said out loud. And so I think with kids, definitely perceived differently, but otherwise, no. These are kind of like a mishmash of like relationship and family questions, by the way. I'm like so all over the place in this. How did you pick out your ring? Guys, I'm not gonna lie, this is like so unlike me as a type A person, but I literally went on Etsy because I knew I wanted to get a moissanite ring. I wanted to get it from like a small business, and the first one I saw was my ring and I loved it, and I sent it to Matt and I said like, no pressure, but when the time comes, like I don't want to go ring shopping. This is the ring I want. I'm a size 6. I knew from the get-go I never wanted to go ring shopping because I really wanted to be like surprised. And I'm so glad I did that. Honestly, it was like the best way to go about it. I like love my ring literally so much. I'm obsessed with it. But I didn't like know I wanted a certain style, shape, color. I knew I wanted gold. That's actually the only thing I knew. And I didn't even like try the ring on or anything. Like I literally just like raw dogged it and was like, no, I hope this looks nice on me because this is the one that I want. And yeah, I can put like a close up, like an overlay of what my ring looks like on the screen for you guys. Do you have any regrets on your elopement? Ooh, that's a good one. If you're new here, Matt and I, my husband, eloped last year on our 1-year engagement anniversary, and we didn't tell anyone except our parents and then our witnesses, which were 2 of our good friends. Like the only regret I have, and it's like something small and it like doesn't really matter now, I really wish I had gotten flowers for photos. However, we eloped over Mother's Day weekend and every store was out of flowers, like every store. So we didn't get any, and I made up for it because Brianna and I put together this really beautiful bouquet for my wedding reception, but I really wish I had like flowers to like hold during like photos and stuff when we eloped. But that's like the only thing, and it's like something so small, minute, it literally went so perfect. Yeah, other than the flowers, like that's like even like really pushing it. Like I'm just trying to think of something. Other than that, yeah, no, it went like literally perfect. Like absolutely no regrets, no complaints, nothing. Did you guys get a wedding video, and are you going to share it? I just realized I've never like talked about this, but we do have a wedding video, but we're gonna keep that for us, just like our wedding vows. We do have like a wedding day vlog that we took like behind the scenes, but we wanted to keep a few things like for us, and I think it's so beautiful when people share their wedding day video, but it was something that Matt wanted to like keep private, and he brought that up when we first got it, and he was like, you know what, like we wanted to like keep it private and keep it for us, so we're not going to be sharing that, but yes, we do have one, and we look back at it all the time. We literally like just looked back on it and watched it like the other day. Yeah, our good friend Erica, who took our wedding photos, put together a little video for us, and it was so sweet. How did you know you wanted to keep your last name, and how did Matt react? Matt could like care less. He's literally like the most chill husband in the world. I could tell him I wanted to change my first name and he'd be like, slay, go queen. I originally wanted to keep my last name and then just hyphenate if and when we had a kid. However, I think I've decided I want to hyphenate like sooner rather than later. And it's just like about finding the right time. I have to like look into it. I really haven't done any research in terms of like passports, things like that. We have a lot of like international travel this year, so I'm like kind of, I don't really know when like the right time to do it is, but to me, I just kind of view it as like both of us like joining our lives together. I'm not like, I've never wanted to change my last name, and I don't know, I just kind of view it as like 2 lives coming together. So like I really wanted for both of us to have the name and for our kid one day to have both of our names, and I'm just, like I said, trying to figure out the right time to do it, but I have decided I want to hyphenate my name. That's kind of the plan now. I'm just trying to find the right time to do it, and like passports, and like I'm just scared like what if I did it before our honeymoon and then I didn't have my passport in time, and like can you still travel with your maiden name passport? Like I don't know. I think I need to wait and find a period of a few months where we're not going anywhere and then go do it then. Ooh, what is one thing you would do differently or the same as your parents' marriage? I love this question. I did like have to grow up really like, and once again, it's not anyone's fault. Like my sister, you know, had some medical problems growing up. She was in and out of the hospital. She had brain surgery, and my parents worked multiple jobs to like provide for our family. My parents have worked extremely hard. My dad's a fire chief now, but he only got that job like when Matt and I started dating. And so he was self-employed before that. And I think as an adult, you really get to see and admire your parents more. Like growing up, you just have no insight. And I think that's something I admire about them too, is that like they never let us on to anything they were going through. We had like deaths in the family and just like really trying times. And my mom and I are super close and we talk about a lot of this stuff now, but like growing up, I would have had no idea what my parents were going through. And like they've been tested and they like really just came out stronger. I vividly remember growing up and my parents were so affectionate to each other and loved each other. And I am a child of divorce. So my dad, who I reference in the vlogs, is my stepdad. He's been in my life since I was like 3 or 4. My biological father did move out of the country when I was 11 or 12. So that in itself, I think, is a lot for a kid to go through. It's a lot I think I've processed and I'm finally kind of come to peace and fully processed it now as an adult. But when I say my mom and dad, that's like what I mean. My parents were always so affectionate towards each other. And Matt and I always say that we want our kid one day, hopefully, to like just know that they've grown up in a house of like love and to know that the parents loved each other. So that's definitely something I want to carry on one day too when we have a kid. Yeah, there's not much I would do differently, honestly. Like my parents, like I don't want to sit here and be like, I would change this, because like my parents went through just so much to give us a good life. And, you know, like looking back on it, obviously I, you know, did horseback riding for so many years and I had to stop for health reasons. But like my dad, like he bought me my first horse, Salem. Well, I still have Salem, but when I was like 16, 17. And I just like, I don't even know how he did it, because knowing what I know now about my parents and just how hard they were working and like what they were going through, I'm like, how did you like make that happen? And like, they just, you would have never known that they were like maybe struggling or like going through it. And they sacrificed a lot for us to have a good life, have shown me that it's like possible to grow up in a house with like love. And I think as a kid, seeing your parents love each other is like just one of the greatest things that you could ask for. So you've been mentioning babies and kids a little bit more in recent videos. Is that something y'all are thinking about sooner now than you used to, rather than waiting as long as you thought you would? Definitely not thinking about it sooner than we thought. I don't know why we have this like magical number of 30 in our heads. And if you guys are new here, we've been like really on the fence about having kids for a few years now. I think it's always just been easier for me to say like I'm not sure than to give a straight answer, because the internet like really holds you to an answer. Like if I say I don't want kids and then a year later say I want to have kids, people are like, when did you change your mind? Like we're fluid beings. We're going to change our minds all the time, right? Especially something as big as having kids. Saying we're not sure is like it's true though. Like we really haven't been sure. We're still not 100% sure, right? Like some days, yesterday I said I didn't want kids. The day before I said I wanted kids. Like my mind is always changing. For some reason, like 30 is like this magical number to me. And I'm turning 28 this year. And that feels like a good amount of time. I definitely think we lean more towards yes than no at this point. And I think it comes down to having positive experiences around it. And I think that's really key, especially when you're on the fence. Like if all you have to base having kids on are negative experiences around you, that is going to impact your decision, right? But once we started gathering those more positive experiences and people around us, that really changed the game for us. I remember being at Brianna and Corey's wedding and we met their good friends, Katie and Lewis, and Katie had such a positive experience with like overall, like for the most part, like her first trimester and her pregnancy and like talking about being a parent and all these things. And that was the first time that Matt and I both felt like, okay, wow, like part of me kind of does want to have a kid. And so for us, it's been really important to find those like good experiences. And all this to say, I feel like I'm at a point now where I feel comfortable talking about it a bit more. I mentioned how our first year of marriage, like I was just like, I didn't want to be pestered with the kid question, because I think that there's more to a couple than having kids, and kids are so wonderful and great, but I felt like I didn't want that to feel like it was like my sole calling in life. Like now that I'm married, I have to have a kid. I really wanted it to be on my own terms, like with Matt. And so that goes to like social media and also my personal life too. Like I didn't want to talk about it in my personal life either. I told my family, Matt's family, like we don't want to talk about this right now. We'll talk about it when we're ready. Respect this boundary. And I brought that boundary to social media as well. But now I can definitely feel like I'm a bit more comfortable talking about it, because, you know, I'll bring it up with my mom a bit more or my dad. And it's also reflecting in my social media, being a bit more comfortable talking about it online as well. But we're also like just not quite there yet. I think there's also a lot we still want to figure out too with like adopting versus having a baby naturally. I have this huge fear. My biggest fear is pregnancy. Then just someone just hand me a baby, please. I don't want to be pregnant. I'm also not against adoption, but then I've heard some people say that it's like not the best route to go, and so we're just trying to like weigh our options out. I would love if you had like a very positive experience with pregnancy to let me know, because once again, I think I just need to hear more of that. The thing with social media is like all you hear is the negative, and I just think need to hear something positive. Like I follow a girl on Instagram, Hannah Coleman. No nausea her first trimester, and I was like, oh my gosh, slay queen. Like that makes me kind of like, okay, I could do this. But then all you hear is like the extreme negatives. So I'm trying to work through that. I am a little bit more open, I would say, to having a child naturally, like myself, but I do have a huge fear of being pregnant and giving birth, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm warming up to talking about it a bit more, and I think that like reflects in my content. Do you have any advice for in-law favoritism or family disagreements? Girl, I got you. Okay, I have a few tips for you. I think this goes for anything, whether it's like struggling to have a relationship with your in-laws. I know that it can be really hard, like when you get married or you're in a relationship that like, you know your family and now you're expected to learn this other family, but like it's really hard when all you know is your family and how to deal with your family and what works with your family, and that might not work with your in-laws. And you know what I mean? Like I find that to be like really tricky. And you know, like I have a good relationship with Matt's family, but I think it's something that no one talks about is like having to relearn a whole new family that's already been established. And that can be really, really hard because they're not going to be the same as your parents, and they're not going to have the same personality types as your parents. You know, some families like to just catch up over family dinner once a month. And then there's families like my family who I FaceTime my parents like 3 times a week, right? And it's just like you're learning different family styles, and it can be really tricky, and no one really talks about that. And there's no right or wrong. Like every family is just going to be a little bit different, and I think that's what makes it so fun and unique and amazing. But it can be really hard to like learn how to be with one family versus another family, and maybe how to react or what they like versus what your family likes. But when it comes to like favoritism or disagreements or just like struggling to get along with your in-laws, I think the biggest thing is just accepting what you can't change. A lot of us have this like, I need to win them over, or like I need to like get their approval mindset. And I think what's really important is to shift from that to focusing on having boundaries and also just protecting your energy, because at the end of the day, that's like really what matters. And also recognizing that people's behavior is about them. It's not about you, and it's not a reflection of your worth or your relationship with them. And also like if interactions are leaving you with like your feelings being hurt, it's okay to limit your interactions with said people. Like that is completely okay. You need to protect your peace at the end of the day. You don't have to engage in every conversation. You don't have to attend every event. And I think once again, protect your peace is like really key here. It's okay to say no to situations that you're going to feel excluded in, or you're going to feel even disrespected in. Another tip too is you can always keep interactions like surface level and polite. Like you don't have to, especially if you struggle with like maybe arguments, especially just with like politics and everything going on, that it's okay to keep things like surface level and to just like know kind of when to tap out. I also think it's really important too that you and your spouse are on the same team, and your spouse should be on the same page with you about how to handle family dynamics, and you should feel comfortable telling your spouse like, this is how I feel about your family, and not phrasing it from a place of attack, but a place of like, this is how I'm feeling. These are the emotions that I'm feeling. At the end of the day, like obviously if there's like favoritism or something going on, like you don't need to chase their validation. You know, you are your own little family unit now. And one of my favorite things about being married now and like having the girls and stuff is that like we are our own family unit, and we can make our own little traditions and stuff, and like you can invest your energy in that instead. So I don't know, hopefully that was helpful. Those are just like some things I've learned in therapy over the years. Honeymoon, let's go. Are you vlogging your honeymoon? I haven't decided yet. I think if I do, it'll be like certain parts. I feel like I do a good job balancing like being in the moment, and then also like I want to film it for us, you know what I mean? Like when we went on the cruise, like it was so fun to share it with you guys, but like ultimately like I wanted to have that to look back on for us, you know? And it's our travel videos, like they don't normally do crazy well, and that's fine, but like they're more for like us and to have the memories to look back on. So I do in that sense. My plan is, since we have a 3-part Disneyland Paris, and then the south of France, I think I'm just gonna pick 2 spots to film and then put the camera down somewhere. I don't really know. I definitely think I have a good relationship with like putting the camera, like if anything, my videos are too short when we travel because I put the camera down like too much and live in the moment. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I haven't like fully decided. I was thinking about doing Disneyland Paris and then maybe Paris and then not vlogging in the south of France since we're not going to be there for the Grand Prix anymore. Just with the order we're doing it, like we're going to do Paris for a few days and then be in the south of France and then do Disneyland Paris. So I thought that would be a good chance for me to maybe like vlog, not vlog, vlog. I definitely want to have a good balance of like sharing it, but then also putting the camera down, but then like also having the memories for us. I could also do mini vlogs too. That's so easy because you're already taking video footage anyways on vacation. You're just putting a little voiceover on it. And so those videos tend to do really well on like TikTok and stuff. So that's an option too. I know for sure I want to vlog Disneyland Paris, but let me know, would you guys want to see a South of France vlog or a Paris vlog more? Or maybe I just do one big France vlog. I'm not too sure yet. I'm still figuring that out. Curious if you'd be willing to share your budget for France. Okay, guys, but I have no idea what to expect. If you've been to France, let me know down below. If you've done like south of France and France, if you feel comfortable sharing your budget, let me know. So we have $5,000 Canadian in our honeymoon fund. We did a honeymoon fund instead of gifts at our wedding reception, and then also we got like some money from like our engagement party and stuff like that. So that's what we have to work with. I don't know if that's doable. Like I have no clue. We're gonna be gone for like 9 days. I feel like the flights are the largest cost of that. However, I do have a companion pass with Aeroplan because my credit card. So I think we might like cash one of those in. The thing that sucks is that like the euro is just like not great right now. So like $5,000 Canadian is 3,200 euros. That's like almost as bad as the US dollar at this point. I think it honestly might be worse. Yeah, it's literally worse than the US dollar. So I'm not too sure. We definitely need to start like crunching numbers and see, and if it will like help us out, I'm definitely okay with paying for a second flight in points because we have a decent amount of Aeroplan points. But that is the goal, just because like it's not like out of our pockets. Like that's the money that we were like kind of like given for the honeymoon fund. So if we can, that would be great. But once I start crunching the numbers and everything, I'll let you guys know. I probably could sound so delulu right now because we've never planned a trip to Europe. I have no idea. But I'm manifesting that energy for us, and fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I feel like we're pretty cheap travelers. Like we really love to just like walk around and explore and drink coffee, buy cheap souvenirs like postcards, eat sandwiches. Like we don't really like to live it up on vacation. South of France might be a bit harder because I've heard it's a bit more expensive there, but I hope we can make it work. I don't know. We'll see. Did you guys decide on a plan? I know based on your Instagram stories, you were overwhelmed. We were very overwhelmed. We decided to extend from 7 days to 9 to 10 days. We're just going to do it from like, time it with work from like a Thursday to a Sunday so that we're not taking that many extra days off of work. And because the flight is like at night, I can work all day Thursday. So I'd only be taking 6 days off of work. We did come up with a plan. ChatGPT helped us. Shout out ChatGPT. We're going to do a few days in Paris, then go to the south of France, and then end in Disneyland Paris in June. And I'll share like more details as I have them with you guys, but we need to start booking things for sure. How do you plan your travel, apps, planning systems, etc.? Okay, so typically we plan our dates around when's the cheapest to go with flights. So Google Flights I love using. I have a video on how we travel on a budget, which probably has some tips in terms of planning our travel as well. I'll link that down below. It's a few years old, but I think it's still pretty useful. I love TikTok. I'm not gonna lie. I have so many collections on TikTok of like New York City things, Paris things. TikTok is like the best search engine when it comes to like travel, you know, to be like, oh, these are the 5 coffee shops you can't miss. Like I did that for my whole Halifax trip. I planned it all through like TikTok. And so what I'll do is once we have our dates confirmed, I'll put everything into my notes app, and then closer to, I'll just kind of start seeing what's near each other and then planning my days out accordingly. But that whole video is probably way more in depth than that. But we're also very go with the flow on vacation, and we'll kind of just like choose the day of and kind of see what we're feeling like. But I say TikTok, planning dates around like cheap travel, and then kind of starting to make itineraries as the days go on. And also if you're traveling somewhere big like New York City or Boston, once again, TikTok has so many like, this is how I would spend 3 days, and then it gives you like an itinerary, which is like a great way to start. So do you have any day trip or travel suggestions from Ottawa for summer mini vacations? The thing about Ottawa is there are so many small towns around, and we love Kingston. Kingston is great. Gananoque, Rockville. I've never been to Westport, but I really want to go this summer. I'm trying to think of what else. I mean, Montreal's only 2 hours away. In terms of like cute small towns around Ottawa, Merrickville's really cute. Almont, Carleton Place, Perth is really great. Matt and I've been to Perth. There's so many small towns around, which is like, it's just like the best part of it. I'm trying to think of where else. Arnprior has some cute spots. Pembroke. We've done Peterborough too, Lindsay, Ontario for like a one night. There's so many fun like day trips around. And I try and take you guys along with the vlogs if you're new here. In the summer and the spring, my mom and I love to do day trips, and Matt and I love to do day trips. So I try to bring you guys along as much as I can. Maybe I'll try and film some like mini reels of like, you know, like this is everything I would do in like Merrickville or something. Kind of like we just talked about with like TikToks. Would you ever live anywhere else in Ontario and Canada? Would you and Matt ever move out east? You seem to fall in love with the Maritimes. You still want to move to the US? I get this question, I feel like, all the time, which is like so fair. And I don't know. The thing is like, I love where we live. I love our house. Everyone always says like, oh, live somewhere different in your 20s. And like, I do agree it would be so fun. I feel like we kind of missed our window. Matt and I really wanted to move to the States during the pandemic because Matt is of course a nurse, and it's like pretty easy to get like a travel nurse job in the States. Well, pretty easy. I say that, they told us it would be, and then we've been waiting for a visa for like 3 years, but it pays really, really well. And if we did somewhere like Vermont or something that's close to home, we could like drive home on the weekends, and they're only like 12, 13 week contracts, which is nice. So we thought about that, and we were like really ready to do that during the pandemic, and then it just like never kind of panned out. I just think it's like off the cards, if I'm being honest. Like never say never. We'll see what happens with like next US election, but definitely not in the next 3-4 years. It's hard. Like I think short term, yes. I think it'd be really fun to like live somewhere for the summer. Like I think it'd be really fun to like go to Halifax for the summer and like rent a cottage or something and like work remotely. I think that would be really, really fun. Long term, no. Just because like we love this house, we love where we live, we're close to both of our families. But short term, yes. And I'd love to be like a snowbird one day, honestly. But definitely like not in the immediate future. I don't think we could have a second house. I say if we were, it'd be like probably like, I don't know, maybe for like 6 weeks we would like go rent an Airbnb in Halifax and like work remotely or something. I think that'd be like a fun way to try it out. But long term, I don't think so. But like never say never. People always ask like, are we gonna move out of this house? I'm like, I have no idea. I'd love to be here forever because honestly, if we're putting the money into the house and fixing it up, like I don't want to just like have it be finished and then like give it to someone else. But you just like, you never know. Speaking of the house, how do you decide the order to do projects in? Oh, this is a good one because we have a few coming up that we need to decide on, and none of them are really structural. They're all just kind of like fun, not fun, but like room makeover projects. So for example, right now we're about to be done the kitchen, and now we're like, okay, Matt really wants to do breakfast nook, dining room, or home library. And so we have a few questions that we kind of ask ourselves. I feel like if it's anything structural, of course, like that ends up becoming the priority, but we are really lucky that we have a house with like really good bones. So we always ask ourselves, you know, what space do we use the most? Like if you're trying to decide between 3 home projects, it's like what space would have the most impact in giving a makeover? What space do you use the most? And which one would make like the biggest difference in your daily life, right? And so that is like the first question we ask ourselves. The second is obviously budget and effort level. So if one of them requires more hiring out versus DIYs and just like how busy we are in this season of life, that would, you know, we'd have to consider what fits our schedule. And also like which one sounds the most exciting to you. It sounds like silly, but if all your projects are of like equal effort, budget, and time, like which one are you most excited about? Playing into that, because I think motivation plays a really big role when it comes to home projects. And if there's one that like excites you the most out of the others, then like go for that one, right? This one's hard because I think all 3 of these projects are kind of like the same effort, but if one of them is a smaller project, I would say go for the smallest and quickest one first to like build momentum. But those are kind of the questions we ask ourselves when we're trying to figure out like the order to do projects in. What is the best and worst part about buying an older home? Best part is like just the character and charm and like the layout, like the unique layout. Like we obviously have a formal sitting room and a living room, and like I just like the layout of our house and like how it's a bit more unique. Worst part, I would say lack of storage. There's not like a lot of closets and storage in older homes. And then energy inefficiency. I don't want to like say the obvious one, which is just that like over the years people do projects and like there's years and years and years. I mean, our house is over 100 years old. There's years of home projects that have all just kind of stacked on each other, which makes renovating a bit harder when you know you have like 4 or 5 layers of drywall to take out. Energy inefficiency is a big one too, right, with older homes. So I'd say those are like kind of like the worst parts. The best parts definitely outweigh the worst. Hello? Hi. Hi. Let me pause my vlog 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Hopefully the angle didn't change. I'm trying to be better about like, Brianna and I will like spontaneously FaceTime each other. And if I'm like in the middle of something, I don't usually pick up the phone, but I'm trying to be better about like just picking up the phone and just like chatting for a few minutes. So anyways, we are back and I have a few questions left to answer. I just kind of like went through and like kind of took out the ones that I answered already so I wouldn't get confused. I have no idea how long this is. I don't even know where we were in this. Oh, the girls have come downstairs because they're like, hey mom, what you doing sitting here chatting to the camera? But, oh, we have one more home question, which is how do you guys balance home renovations with fun money? So this one was kind of a win-win for us because we bought an older house, which generally are a little bit, you know, cheaper, and then also like an hour outside of the city. So like when you move out of the city, I mean, it's crazy. Like our house here versus in the city was like half of the price. We knew if we were going to buy an older house, because we had looked at some older houses in the city, but like we had looked at some fixer-uppers that were like $650K, and like we would just not have had a lot of money left over, which is like fine. It really just depends where you are in life, right? But for us, one, we knew we wanted a house with good bones that didn't need big structural work because that is of course really costly. And over the years, I'm sure we'll need doors and windows and things like that. But right now, a lot of the things that we can do are like very much cosmetic, right? And really got a house with good bones. And we knew if we were going to get a fixer-upper, we wanted it to be a house that was below our means so we would still have the money to travel. And like I said, having a house with good bones, that like a lot of the things that we're doing right now is just because we want to. It's not because we have to. I think the biggest thing to remember is that this is a marathon and not a sprint. Like a fixer-upper really is a long-term project at the end of the day, and it's okay if things take longer than expected. And I think it's important to shift your mindset from, it's so easy to be like, well, I'll enjoy the house when it's done, so we should just do all the projects right now, to enjoying the house as you go, because there's never really going to be like a perfect finished house. Like there's just like always something that's going to need to be done in a fixer-upper, and you should never wait until you have that perfect finished house to enjoy life. I also do think after a year and a half in this house now that building in periods of rest has been key for us to like not burn out. And as much as we've enjoyed a lot of the home projects we've done, I think it's really important to not just take breaks to travel, but also just take breaks in general to just enjoy your home in between projects and not just be living in like a constant state of construction and paint everywhere and like tools and things like that. We also chose to learn how to do a lot of things ourselves, which has saved us money. Matt was not handy when we bought this house, and I don't mean that in a rude way, but like it's just the truth. Like if he can learn how to do it, I think anybody can. And because we chose, there's like obviously limits to things that we'll do ourselves, but because we chose to do a lot of things ourselves, that has also saved us money too. At the end of the day, like we knew if we were going to buy a fixer-upper, we wanted to buy a fixer-upper that was like within our means so that we would still be allowed to travel, and like know of people that have these huge exorbitant mortgages and they can't travel or they can't like do anything anymore. And also I want to say too that like we really just like got lucky, right? Like we bought our first house during the pandemic, and so our interest rate is, 1.8%. And so I think timing plays a big factor too, right? Like based on like interest rates now versus then. Even if it's like, it doesn't even need to be a big trip or anything. It could just be like a staycation or just carving in, I don't know, like a date night out of the house or something. I really think it's so important to like find that balance. On the weekends, having balance. So we'll do like one day doing a home project and then the next day we don't do anything, or we'll do like 2 half days. And we really try to find that balance, because we do find when we have that balance on the weekends, we're obviously just happier, and then we're still making that quality time for ourselves. So finding the balance is key for like longevity, not only of your house and like renovations, but also your relationship too, right? Because I think that renovating a house can be like really tolling on a relationship. And you have to keep the fun in it. And fun can be anything, right? It doesn't have to be travel. It can be date nights or rotting on the couch and playing video games, and just like knowing when to take a break. I think having periods where you take breaks, I've mentioned this before, but we took a break in the fall, and if anything, it made us like crave doing more projects, because we like really realized how much we enjoy doing it and how much we miss it. It's fun for our relationship, and we find a lot of like happiness in doing projects together. And we've definitely like along the way, we've had our arguments and all that stuff, and it's testing on a relationship to do home projects. It's a lot of fun to do together, and it's just so validating and so satisfying to like see a house come together because of like you and your efforts. So anyways, that's kind of the long spiel on that. These are more miscellaneous kind of questions, but have you ever considered a virtual book club? So I have a book club with my in real life girlfriends. I'm not gonna lie, you guys, I never really read the book because they're not really like my cup of tea. Yeah, I just read a lot of thrillers and fantasy, and they do a lot of like literary fiction, and I read lit fic, but like I read more of like, I guess like, you know, crazy girl lit fic and like just stuff like that, and I just like go to like hang out with my friends. So I actually was considering doing a virtual book club on Fable since it's like an option, and I use Fable all the time to like track my books and stuff. So I thought maybe we could start a virtual book club on Fable. I don't know, I need to come up with like a fun name for it, but if you guys are interested, let me know. I think we could do that maybe in April, and that could be kind of fun. But if anyone's interested, I definitely think I like would consider it. What music do you listen to when you're reading? I typically do like ambiance music on YouTube. We have a few that we listen to on repeat. Like Matt loves this, like a Hobbit playlist, and like it's like a Hobbit cozy tavern. We do a lot of like fantasy, cozy ambiances, Hogwarts. There's a ton on YouTube, honestly, for anything you're looking for, like rainy night. There's so many, it's great. I can sometimes do words with lyrics, but I have to be like really, really hyper-focused in the book. And there's like a playlist for every book out there. If you can read with lyrics, there's literally a playlist for everything. But I can link down below some of my favorites, or I can like put them here maybe. But I love cozy ambiance music, especially on the TV when like the blackout curtains are closed in here. It's just so cozy. Favorite book of 2025 so far? Okay. I don't think I could pick one, but let's do one like of each genre. So I actually just read a 5-star thriller. Like I finished it this morning on my audiobook. That's Not My Name by Megan Lally is for sure my favorite thriller so far of 2025. In terms of romance, that is so hard. Are we going by like the book I liked the most or the most highly rated? Favorite romance is a tie between The 7-Year Slip and The Love of My Afterlife, but I want to say The Love of My Afterlife because I feel like no one is talking about it. And like 7-Year Slip deserves the hype, but like The Love of My Afterlife, like no one talks about, and it's so good. So I'm gonna say that one. And then for fantasy book, I don't think I've had a 5-star fantasy read yet this year. Kind of want to say The Rose Bargain, honestly, was probably one of my favorites of the year so far. That or The Lies of Lena, I really, really enjoyed. So those are my favorite books of the year for sure. So do you prefer the Kindle or Kobo? This one is tough because I feel like they have their own purpose, and I feel like because I read so much, like I'd say I average 100 books a year. I love them both for different reasons. I love that I can use my Kobo to read library books because in Canada, library books are not compatible, or Libby is not compatible on the Kindle. I love the color highlighting, and I really like the Kobo interface. I think the battery life on them both is pretty similar. I was gonna film a comparison video. I still am like deciding. I'm kind of gathering my facts for that, but I love the Kobo because I can read so much from the library, and I have so many ebooks available at the library. But I love my Kindle because I also love reading a lot of self-published indie books on Kindle Unlimited, and I didn't know this until recently, but books that are on Kindle Unlimited and authors on Kindle Unlimited are often limited to Amazon, and they can't post on like Kobo and stuff, which is why you can't find their books elsewhere. I don't think I could pick one, truthfully. Ooh, this is interesting. Weirdest or coolest dream you can remember having? Okay, this one is like kind of crazy, but if you guys are new here, my ex-boyfriend passed away in a motorcycle accident a few years ago. We were together like on and off for 5 years, and I have nothing but great things to say about the guy. Like he was a really amazing person. That's just like some context, but I am not like a religious person at all. I do believe in like the universe and like signs and all that stuff, but I'm not like very religious. Or the night he passed, I should say, before anyone knew, I had a dream. And I remember waking up and being like, that was the weirdest dream. And I often tell Matt about my dreams because Matt doesn't really have dreams. And I remember telling him that I had the weirdest dream, that Chad was my ex-boyfriend, was in my dream. But there was something to do with like, it was like me, Matt, and Chad. And like, he like floated through Matt almost like a ghost or an entity, and like kind of passed through me into Matt. And I thought it was the weirdest dream ever. And then I woke up and I found out that he passed away. And I like kind of viewed it as my sign that he was like, you know, like take care of her kind of in a sense. And yeah, so that was the weirdest dream I ever had, only because you often read about like how people have this like weird feeling before like a loved one or someone they know passes away. And yeah, he was in my dream the night before he passed away. I don't know if that's a weird or cool dream, honestly. I don't know what category that falls into, but definitely kind of the like trippiest thing about it. But yeah, so that's that dream. We should actually end it off with our cruise questions. I wanted to save, well, I didn't save them to the end, but I knew that there was going to be a decent amount of cruise questions. So, how was your motion sickness on the cruise? Did you take any anti-nausea pills anyways? Matt and I are both prone to motion sickness, which is exactly why we booked a 3-night cruise. Like, a lot of people ask, like, why would you go on a cruise that short? And it was just to make sure that we liked it. We both get motion sick as passengers in the car, so we weren't sure, because you kind of always associate like a cruise with getting motion sick. So we really weren't too sure what to expect. But we were totally fine the whole time. So let this be like your positive experience that we were both completely fine. The only time we took like nausea medication was our last night, because we heard that coming home on the straight and like going home, sometimes they go a little bit faster to get back to the port, and we definitely felt it a little bit more, but we weren't nauseous. You could just like feel the boat rocking a bit more, and we both took Dramamine just like as a precautionary so we could like sleep through the night. That was the only time we took anti-nausea medication. And I also got some questions on like sea legs, and I am just like a very dizzy person naturally from my long COVID, so I have PPPD, triple PD, and dizziness, and so I am like normally just like kind of dizzy and like all over the place. So I can't really tell if I had sea legs, but Matt definitely did for like, I'd say a day or two. It wasn't like as intense as some people that like, they're like crashing into things, but he definitely noticed he was just like a little wobbly once he got off the ship. But once again, it didn't like make him nauseous or anything. He just kind of noticed that he was like a little bit unstable, I will say. All right, we've acquired a special guest here, but she's like, I heard the word cruise. You better not be leaving me again. Do you think you'll cruise again? I definitely think so. I think we'll do a 4 or 5 night next, but I'd love to do the Destiny or the Treasure maybe in like 2026, 2027, if like kind of everything with Canada and the States, you know, we're going to see how like things play out just with like travel. Maybe in the next few years, that would be really, really nice to take another one, but I definitely think we'll be back on another cruise. I feel like the higher price point of a Disney cruise was worth it. They do offer 20% off sailings for Canadians, which helps you save the exchange rate, which is nice. It's hard because we've never cruised another company that I can't really like compare it to, but I will say that we were incredibly happy and felt like the cruise was worth the price that we got. We also did book a veranda, which I don't think we could do it without a veranda. I think it was worth like saving a little bit extra and doing it with the veranda, because I think that really helped with our motion sickness. And also we spent so much time on the veranda. Matt says he would never cruise without a veranda, and like that's fair. It was really, really nice to have. I think the quality of the food was amazing. I mean, Disney customer service is just like above, like just like a different caliber. It's incredible. The shows were incredible. It was so clean, and we had the best time. And I just like, I don't have anything else to really compare it to. I will say a lot of people, and I was reading some threads and stuff like that, a lot of things that are included with Disney aren't included on other cruise lines, like room service, the kids clubs, pop, like everything on Disney drink wise is included except specialty coffee and alcohol, and ice cream and things like that. So that's something to consider. Of course, we're just 2 people, right? So if you were to do a cruise for a family, it might be a bit more affordable to do like Royal Caribbean or a different cruise line. I think for us, it ended up being worth it because we flew on Porter vouchers, and then we ended up like booking a cheap hotel the night before. For us, like, I think if you can find a way to make the other aspects worth it, because like with a cruise, the thing is like it's pricey, but then you still have to get yourself there, and you're not supposed to fly in the day of your cruise. So then you have to stay overnight in a hotel. So there's just like a lot to consider. But the nice thing is like when you're on the cruise, you don't really have to pay for anything except if you get like souvenirs or alcohol. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think we enjoyed the cruise more than the parks. I think it was a lot more relaxing for us. Yeah, I know it's like not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and that's fine. And people are not going to get like how you pay so much for a Disney cruise, and that's okay. Because at the end of the day, like it was a really great experience for us. And yeah, I hope the video like helped, I don't know, you guys see how great it can be. I do get that like with a family, especially how like that price adds up super, super quick, right? I also wanted to say too that their prices change a lot depending on the season. So February is kind of more peak season. So had we gone in January, it would have been probably decently cheaper. I think January, November, or January, September, like hurricane season, are cheaper times to go. So there are ways to save money on it for sure. If you're going during a non-peak season, the price changes like a decent amount. And then you can also get that 20% off for Canadians on certain sailings. That's all the questions that we have time for today. I feel like we answered a decent amount though, which is pretty great. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you had this on as maybe like a little podcast or just like hanging out while you were like getting things done. I love having Q&As on in the background when I'm like journaling or like coloring or just like honestly working. I love hanging out with people. I love Q&A videos so much. I think they're so much fun. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I love you guys so much, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye. Oh, bye, Lila.